Hi, I'm Holly Sizemore, Chief Mission Officer for Best Friends Animal Society, and this is my co-host BG, who wants to remind you to hit like and subscribe. Welcome to Saving America's Pets. Today, we're going to be discussing systemic racism in animal welfare and how we can work to be a more inclusive and diverse movement. Recently, our CEO, Julie Castle, blogged about how Best Friends hasn't done enough in our own organization and as a leader in the larger animal welfare movement to combat systemic racism and to embrace more diversity. She promised that we will do better, and we dove in and looked to our colleagues of color to help lead us in this effort. In the last couple of weeks, we've had many uncomfortable, raw, beautiful, and loving conversations. I'll admit there have been some hurt feelings, there have been some missteps, but I have to say I'm so proud to work for Best Friends, who has always prioritized a culture of kindness. And I believe that has helped us to respectively and candidly work through these vital and difficult conversations. We're also committed to sharing these conversations with our Best Friend Network partners, to our supporters, and to all animal-loving community members across the nation. I believe that animal welfare will do more. We will do better to unite those of us who all love animals. Those of us from different ethnicities, backgrounds, generations, gender identities, cultures, and political views. I believe that fighting racism is a nonpartisan issue, and we must do what is right. I know I'm learning, and I still have much to learn. I'm very grateful to my colleagues of color and those in the larger BIPOC community who are now poised to be heard in a way they've never been before, and to teach those of us who are willing to listen to these teachings that will profoundly and positively change our world, our nation, and our animal welfare movement. So with that, I would like to introduce my colleagues, Kirstie James, Community Cat Program Supervisor, Leah Long, Community Cat Program Outreach Specialist, and Akisha Townsend Eaton, Legislative Attorney for Best Friends.
Thank you so much for being here, all of you. I know each and every one of you has a very demanding and important job here at Best Friends, and above and beyond your daily jobs, you've raised your hands to help Best Friends hear the stories as women of color, understand issues of race and diversity and inclusion better, and help lead the organization and the animal welfare movement into doing better with these issues. So thank you so much for being here today. Kirstie, first to you. What are some ideas that animal welfare organizations, including Best Friends, steps we can take to engage more people living in communities of color?
Right. So I feel like one of the main reasons why animal welfare isn't very diverse right now is just because people of color and those communities aren't being reached as much as they could be. So I really think that animal welfare organizations, leaders, rescues, anyone in the field can really dig into what their community looks like. And I challenge them to look up the demographics and see where the people of color are living predominantly, and really get into those neighborhoods to spread the word and message. That can be done through adoption events, volunteer and foster engagement or recruitment events. And that can be held anywhere like a public library or a community center, anything of nature, just to really get the word out there. And we need to get out of our comfort zones.
Leah, how is animal welfare connected to the Black Lives Matter movement?
In order to save them all, we have to include all communities. Historically, we have gotten so many cats and dogs from neighborhoods consisting of Black people and people of color. Not because these people don't care for their pets, but because there is a narrative where we always put them as being wrong or ill-equipped to own a pet, and these pets that they love are victims in need of our help. But as we know, this couldn't be farther from the reality. The reality is these people care for their animals just as much as we do. And the only difference is their communities don't have access to the resources that they need. These are people that will go hungry if it meant providing for their pet. So why aren't Black communities involved in the movement, in these conversations? It's because, like so many industries, animal welfare has systemic racism. Animal welfare groups sometimes paint themselves as superior when there are people in these communities with the same passion. We are trying to close the gap in America's shelters, and quite simply, we can't do that without the help of people of color, which is why the Black Lives Matter movement is so vital to the work that we do. It's shedding a light on the areas that we as an industry need to address. And through addressing that, we can also reach our goals. When people of color have so long had their pets taken away from them unjustly or been turned away as adopters for no concrete reason, there's a problem. We're taking away from our own movement. We need to instead take away barriers to adoption, make keeping pets in homes easier, and allow for more diverse employment in our industry. We are already taking steps towards that: open adoptions, managed intake prevention. These are already steps that we're taking. But there's more that we can do, and it all starts with conversations like this.
Akisha, over to you. What motivated you to take this position with Best Friends and to become part of the animal welfare movement? And how does that relate to the issues that we're talking about today?
So I've been in the movement for a while, and it was a really refreshing and energizing thing to see those guiding principles. And those guiding principles were, ultimately based on the golden rule, right? We treat those among us, which means people and animals, as we would really want to be treated ourselves. It's about kindness, demonstrating compassion and respect for all living creatures, positive influence, to judge our effectiveness by the extent to which animal lives are saved and improved, and the positive experience of the people we touch. I think that's, really important to the work that we're doing. Leading by example, which is what we're striving to do right now. Just as Leah said, we're having these conversations, and that's great. Sharing new approaches and ideas. Authenticity, so not just talking the talk, but walking the walk. And of course, transparency, being open and honest in our relationships. We're really well positioned to take these going forward. Those are really our strength. I think that by collaborating with and partnering with a diverse range of community members, those will come naturally out of our guiding principles, because really our mission can't be achieved unless these things are done. We're going through a pandemic as well. And, it's often been said that we can't go back to the old normal. And I hope that this is true within our community as well. We can't go back to the old normal of leaving some of our most valuable community members on the sidelines. And really, to reach no kill, we need all hands on deck. And these events have really exposed our vulnerabilities and laid bare some of our most difficult and painful challenges in our field, as well as the opportunities. And I'm grateful that we're taking a lead on that.
So to your point about walking the walk, I want to ask each of you the same question. What do you think are the most important next steps and how we can move this issue forward, both at Best Friends and more generally in animal welfare? So Kirstie.
We are one of the biggest animal welfare organizations. We're national, and we have such a huge audience. Specifically can lead the way. And one of those ways that I think that really maximize that is by potentially doing things in the national conference. We'd walk the walk, talk the talk at the conference. So some examples, one would be maybe diversifying the speakers and really looking into leaders in different organizations that are people of color. It can just bring different types of background and different experiences and really broaden what we know about animal welfare just by hearing from people with all different kinds of backgrounds, all different experiences from all over the country.
So Leah, how do we walk the walk?
I think that we're already doing the first step, which is we're listening to the diverse people we already have in our organization to see where we think we need to build up our strength and how we can better approach that future. And then through that, we need to be leaders and we need to take action. And I think that first comes from, marketing more to those communities, just like Kirstie was saying earlier, really going into them, having our adoption events there, but also, like Kirstie said, including more people of color in our learning spaces so that we can give them the opportunities, whether they are there as speakers, but also there as attendees.
Akisha, how do we walk the walk?
We're already doing it. We're having these conversations. We know that there are certain things that will help communities across this nation get to No Kill 2025. At the same time, we know that every community is different and there's not necessarily a one size fits all answer for individual communities. So I would suggest that this is a time to really get hyper local, include people in conversations, definitely invite more diversity into every kind of program or event you have, but also be willing to, take a step out of your comfort zone and go to some new events that you might not be used to going to. I suggested the other day that, I'm active in my local NAACP unit, and that's not a place that you would necessarily go to thinking that you're going to hear about animal issues, but those barriers and those issues as they are applied in a community do come up, and and you also get to see some, meet your community members and learn about what is happening. Focus on collaborating with, partnering with. We talk about outreach a lot, which is great. We definitely want to reach out to our communities, which is why I love that we have the concept of network partners, because we know that people care about this work that we're doing. They're already engaged in ways that we might not be aware of. So being willing to share the knowledge as well as to learn from other people. Shelters that are embracing these concepts that we're talking about will not only be leaders in getting to no kill, but in sustaining that.
Leah, you helped educate me on this issue about how animal welfare workers talk about dangerous neighborhoods. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, so I think that's a phrase that we've all heard and possibly even said at some point. To me, dangerous neighborhoods are usually code for underserved neighborhoods that are primarily made up of people of color. More often than not, these so-called dangerous neighborhoods are really tight-knit communities filled with people that love their animals. In contrast to that, for 2 years, I was embedded in a shelter in Louisiana where I did a lot of work in the field. On nearly a weekly basis, I would go out to so-called nice neighborhoods, into homes that had Confederate flags, and people that would treat me with open contempt. I also always did the work with a smile on my face because it meant that I was offering support to animals that needed it. It's too many times I see more consideration given to people with Confederate flags than Black people, which is to say these underserved neighborhoods that we call dangerous areas are also the ones that don't have the resources we're supposed to be providing. In order to open up our movement and the amount of animals we reach, we need to engage all communities and confront our biases. Save them all is something that anyone in any race can get behind. It's just about reaching out to them.
Indeed. We know that that human-animal bond doesn't see color, doesn't see income status. They see love.
I have Oscar right here.
Oh my God. Is that a koala bear or is that a dog?
He thinks he's a koala bear. I don't know what he is. I'm sure it's a Scotty mix of some type, but otherwise, who knows?
So cute.
I think that in a time where there is so much negativity, it's that we're finally having these open discourses with issues that really in the past were just swept under the rug that really give me so much hope. And I'm so proud to work for an organization that is really leading the charge in our industry.
I'll end by just saying I'm really excited that this conversation is being had right now. I think it's a great time. And I definitely feel very happy that Best Friends is one of the organizations in the animal welfare field that is able to really step up and lead this movement and be the main voice right now in this conversation.
Well, thank you again all for everything you do to save lives and to help us as an organization do better, be more inclusive. And you guys stay safe, stay well. Take care.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you.
We'd like to invite you to be part of more conversations. We're including some links in the description, more in-depth conversations including podcasts, town halls, and we have some editorials coming out next week that will dive into these very important issues and help us all do better and do what's right. Thank you, because together we can save them all.